Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I Man here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, and Rovi, and today we're going to talk about Web3 gaming, the efficacy of such industry, and whether or not we can actually figure it out.
Yeah. So we're going back. It's 2023. We had a bunch of sectors to keep our eyes on this year. Web3 gaming did make the list. We saw Web3 gaming explode during the last cycle with Axie Infinity, and then of course like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other like play to earn. It even spun out into like different, not just play to earn, like move to earn.
Yeah, that's
true. Like probably like read to earn.
Yeah,
just do anything to earn.
Sit to earn.
Yeah, and pretty much. Yeah. So that kind of like broke through some obvious dilemmas of like you can't just like incentivize people with a bunch of tokens and not have like an actual viable or like value output from that.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. Not having actual like a consequence for just emitting a token.
Exactly. Yeah. It has a lot to do with like DeFi. You can't just like throw out these like unbelievable APYs to mint to become like, yield farm aggregators.
Right.
And expect that to be like long-term sustainable. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Eventually you're going to run out of tokens when you're yielding 10,000%, right?
Correct. So this is part of the dilemma that the Web3 gaming space has to figure out, right? Like it started off as like a much more, you play these games, you earn some sort of monetary compensation for doing that activity.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how the space began and started to bloom and then quickly crumbled right after that. So, but there's still hope, right?
Yeah. There is a right way to do it in terms of having a game economy, inject that with an ERC20 token or choose
tons of NFTs.
Yeah, choose your network and then tons of NFTs. Mm-hmm. There's a right way to do it. However, I think the best way to kind of depict this right way is to start with an analogy. So we could start with a car. A car is manufactured through a facility, right? Mm-hmm. The car is in demand, right? You need to get to places, so you need a car, right?
Yeah.
So that manufacturing facility gets its parts from companies who make the parts. Right. Mm-hmm. And so those companies need those parts to be made from raw resources. Right. Mm-hmm. So you have a labor economy getting those raw resources. Those resources are being sold to the companies making the parts. The parts are sold to the manufacturer. The manufacturer makes the car.
Yeah.
People buy the car and that's it.
Yeah.
You have a closed loop ecosystem.
Not just closed loop, but like an actual, like again, like a value output, like that car is going to bring so much more like actual true tangible value to society.
Right.
Right. So that's why that whole mechanism of operations it's sustainable. It works out.
Right.
Like all the actors within that ecosystem are properly accounted for.
Yeah, they're autonomous in that ecosystem. They know what they need to do. If they want to get paid, they better do their job, and that's how it works.
Right. So you're trying to inject like that same flow of value, like transfer and output into gaming.
Yes.
Right? Like that is kind of like the whole premise to Web3.
Yeah, because think of any Web2 game. Pick any Web2 game, all right? Counter-Strike, Halo, whatever it is, right?
Okay.
Now imagine injecting an ERC20 token or NFTs into those games. What does that do to the game, right? You have to think about, okay, NFTs, there's limited quantities, right? So now your Halo weapon is one of 1,000. Mm-hmm. What does that do to the game economy at that point? Only 1,000 people can hold that weapon now. Then you can't have like a free for all because there's only a few people with the best weapons, and like it completely changes the game. Mm-hmm. So now you inject ERC20s and NFTs into your game. Now you have to redesign the game. It's a completely different game. It's no longer just drop in and like shoot at each other. There's like economic implications as a result of shooting at each other.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. So you got to redesign the game. So we were talking about how there's like this sentiment in the Web3 space about making your game fun. And the reason is the same reason to make your game fun is for the same reason you have a car in demand, right? You need to get to places, therefore you need a car.
Yeah.
And in order to have a sustainable Web3 game, you need to have a demand of the output of the game, which is fun.
Yeah.
You need to have people want to play the game.
Correct. And that makes like the assets. So if the big value output for like human time contribution into these game economies, it's the production of new digital goods. then people have to, like, I guess, see that as a desirable commodity, right? And the only way to do that is, you achieve some sort of status amongst your peers, or, basically it's something to really flex. And that's not like super hard to imagine something that can really take off, because I mean, it already happens in the Web2 gaming space.
Sure.
We saw what happened in the general NFT, like, uprising period. People were proudly flexing just JPEGs, right? That weren't associated to any game.
Yeah.
It was literally just people minting these things out of thin air, artists, whatever, maybe AI algorithms that were undisclosed back then.
Yeah.
Who knows who generated all this like JPEG art. But the point is, it got people interested enough in that concept alone. It's like, okay, I'm going to acquire this digital asset and it's going to, achieve some sort of status to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to be able to use that. And it worked with the Bored Apes.
Yeah, that's
If you slapped one of those on your Twitter profile, all of a sudden you were
cool.
You were somebody.
Yeah, you're somebody. Yeah.
You were somebody. You put out a tweet thread. It's like, this guy needs to be listened to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing. So I guess, but that mattered because, the context of that application was like the whole internet, Twitter. Everybody was paying attention to that. Like, that is actually very valuable.
Yeah, they were in demand.
Exactly. Well, that's what drove the demand. Is like you achieve a status amongst the peer of your internet folk.
Yes.
Right, with these NFT PFPs and stuff like that. So for games, it's going to be like a micro version of that, unless it's like a tremendously valuable game like a Fortnite or a Minecraft or a Roblox.
Yeah.
I mean, those are player economies in the tens of millions.
Yeah.
Like, you can achieve.
Yeah, you can have an ecosystem within that game economy.
Correct. This is where people actually are desired to have status within that. Right. So that status alone is what drives the value and like the demand for people to put in the time to manufacture these digital goods, right? So that's the beginning of an economy. And like that's why I think the inevitable conclusion amongst all the Web3 gaming folks is like, we can't expect like an actual sustainable economy to ever exist unless we could actually make a killer game product that, where there's tens of millions of people consistently playing this thing, telling their friends to play this thing. They're going to school, bragging about the things they did, all the same stuff you typically do in Web 2, right? So if you believe in that thesis, like it's achievable, it's inevitable, then there's definitely a sector to pay attention to, right? The Web 3 100%. Gaming space. Because right now it's like, man, it seems really hard to pinpoint what's going to be that killer.
Yeah, because kind of like I said earlier, once you inject in, some sort of token, right? Some fungible token and non-fungible tokens, it changes the nature of the game, right? Mm-hmm. And so game developers have to design a game as a result of that change. Yep. So you have to create, because if you take like a regular first-person shooter, and those players are playing the game to like earn some NFT or some asset within the game, that asset only is valuable depending on how many players are actually playing the game.
Yep.
If it's no fun, nobody's going to be playing the game. Therefore, the demand of the NFTs goes down, and then all of a sudden you have a Web3 game that nobody's playing.
Yeah.
But if it's fun, meaning there's a lot of people playing, then there's demand for that NFT, but then you still have to create that economy within that game, because if NFT implies there's only so many to go around. Right, because if your game's about shooting at each other and you're limiting the game, the actual weapon, it's like,
well, I mean,
how do you do that?
You have like different like tiers of limitations. Like some are ultra rare, some are less rare, some are common, stuff like that. You could balance it out over time, still accommodate like the whole population pool. You know what I mean? And then that's what creates classes basically. Yeah.
And then outside of that, having a fungible token, then you design a game where you're incentivizing people to play. Mm-hmm. And that incentivization really depends on it goes back to whether or not people think it's fun enough to play in the first place. Yeah. Because otherwise you earn this token. What are you going to do? Are you going to upgrade your weapon or sell it, depending on who you are?
Yeah. So basically, if you just incentivize people to come and play and participate, like they'll come, but like you're gonna just slowly see everything just to start, dwindle to nothing,
right?
Because the people who came who are incentivized, they're only there, to exploit that,
to extract the token,
extract all that value. Yeah. But if you attract those people with those incentives, but they have something,
something desirable at the end,
then you're gonna see a lot less of this downward slope, either like a sideways or like an upways.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone wants to see the upways. if
Yeah.
you truly built something of significance, right? So having said all that,
Yeah. So
we
there's
got to spotlight a particular platform that is focused on exactly this whole paradigm,
Yeah.
right?
So we're
yeah.
talking about Ultra. So Ultra.io, they have an announcement on April 25th. Let's see if I can find it here.
Yeah, and we talked about this project probably like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we did.
Like we read their white paper.
Yeah.
I think they got like some significant funding, and they were like announcing back in those times that they're going to build this platform around the peak of the Play to Earn in 2021, the Mania.
Yes.
Right. So I was like, damn, this is pretty good. You know, they seem like pretty much like a Steam competitor, right?
Yeah. And so their product is going to be made available to the public on April 25th.
Yeah.
So basically a week from today.
Yeah. So they've basically been just like heads down, grinding,
Yeah.
developing, whatever you want to call it, for 2 years since we last found out about them. And this is going to be within a week or so is going to be the time where they're going to showcase what it is they've been building, what types of games they've been, I guess, like what's the word, nurturing to exist on their platform. And look at that.
And they have a couple of cool looking games, right? So in this article, this announcement article, they showcase those games, like one of them being Lords of the Fallen and Cards of Eternity. So they're there.
Yeah.
And so on the 25th, presumably you'll be able to purchase these games, and what's cool is that they're enabling a tokenization of your purchase. So basically you can resell that game and have someone else play that game using your NFT.
Yeah. So that's just like one of the the purpose of the Ultra platform is it's to provide tools, right, and frameworks for Web3 game developers to build products that they could inevitably list on the Ultra storefront, marketplace, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right? That sounds good. That sounds very productive. You know, there's others out there, I think, doing the same thing. Gala Games.
Yes.
Right?
Gala Games, yes.
I would say
Engine to a certain extent.
Yeah, Engine. Immutable X has a lot of game focus. You know, I mean, there's a lot of heat generating in this space for sure.
You know what's interesting is that a lot of these projects, they're building the pickaxes and the shovels, but I think there needs to be more emphasis on like the direct, rubber to where the rubber meets the road, where a game developer has to come up with a sustainable economy. Yeah. Right. Either you make a very attractive game where there's tons of players, and those players form their own like desirable products, their own demand for assets within the game, like a Fortnite would.
Yeah.
Or you create a game sort of genre where they're producing something of value, which in some cases would be something of demand. Like, so we know a lot about this because we're creating our own platform and a game.
Yeah.
And we're creating an ecosystem of distributed components. And the whole point of the distributed components is for an ecosystem to generate something of value, which is a Rovi. And so that Rovi is, does a bunch of stuff, right? You can chat with it. You can basically make it desirable for a community of people.
Correct.
But the whole idea is that you have an ecosystem of people who contribute to different parts of the ecosystem, thereby generating that end result.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the metaverse has a lot more to leverage in this types of scenarios. You can create much more.
There's more room, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As opposed to just a game, because a game is very much like a closed, like virtual, like parameter. Right?
Yeah.
It was designed. It's
a specific purpose, like a first-person shooter. You're not going to be like
exactly specific purpose is the right way to say it. Yeah, but the metaverse is more of like a general purpose, environment.
Yeah.
So you can create so many different layers of value out of that, and over time it just continues to develop and mature and evolve, right? So that's the difference between, I think, like just pure gaming. The metaverse is something, it has a lot of game components to it, but obviously there's much more like intangent.
So I think what you're trying to get to is that the metaverse doesn't need to design fun games as much as a game needs to be designed fun if you're going to be injecting, some sort of tokenized assets in there.
Yeah, I think, for sure. Because in a game environment, the limitation of value is purely in the goods that are applicable to that environment itself, right? So if it's not like a game environment that people actually want to be a part of, then where's the demand to produce anything?
Exactly. Good
You know?
point.
Yeah. But in the metaverse, you can go beyond and expand infinitely, because that is the nature of the,
Yeah.
the 3D internet.
Yeah.
Of course, gaming is going to be part of that,
Yeah.
but that can still transpire into different, avenues that, it's not limited to just one single, parameter set.
Yeah. So the metaverse allows sort of like the manufacturing analogy that I mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and a game world. I guess the limiting factor is making it fun, because you can inject all these tokens, but like I said, injecting these tokens changes your game. You have to redesign everything, and it becomes more complex. And so the thing that solves the complexity is the desire to play that game, to be in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
And therefore, you have players, and all those assets that you've designed in the game are now desirable.
Yeah. So this is going to be one of the more like challenging sectors to
Yeah.
really I guess see, predict what's going to happen next to it, as far as, kind of like in the same way of AI, the AI sector, there's so much happening in that space, but nobody can really pinpoint what is the killer application of, Web3 and blockchain distributed ecosystems. What is that really going to, the final killer product
Sure.
of that? How is that going to enhance AI, or for the betterment of society?
Yeah.
Same thing with this whole gaming thing. What is it going to be? What's going to be that experience or that game? Is it simply just whatever just captures, the hearts of the youth?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
somebody just creates like a Fall Guys, something that just
Yeah.
went viral. Nobody can really explain why.
Yeah.
It's just the right experience. It's like hitting lightning in a bottle. That might just happen here because there's going to be so many competitors, so many different games, because there's so many platforms
Yeah.
that are aiding developers to release these types of things. So maybe 1 out of 100 will actually stick, right?
Yeah.
So I think this year and next year you're going to see hundreds of these games start to launch,
Right.
because they all started, raising funds during the last Axie Infinity Mania.
Yeah. And they're right now building.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was 2021. Most teams, when they get funding, is 2, 3, 4 years max.
Yeah.
So they're gonna all have to start delivering and shipping product at this point.
Yeah.
In
That's true.
order to get some revenue or to raise future rounds, whatever. So you're going to see a big boom in the next 12 to 18 months
Yeah.
of Web3 games.
And building the pickaxes and shovels is much easier than actually trying to find gold.
Yeah, I mean, at least if you're hoping somebody else finds gold,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, thank God, we built this pickaxe store,
Yeah.
even though we didn't know where the gold was.
Right.
But it's close enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So people are going to buy our pickaxes now,
Yeah,
because
and-
somebody found the gold.
Yeah, and the analogy still really applies. You can't find the gold without the pickaxes and shovels,
True.
right? And
Yeah.
so,
Well, that's why platforms like Ultra and all the other ones we talked about, Gala Games, I mean, their market cap range is, I would call that in the low to mid tier sector. They're all under sub
sub-billion.
sub billion for sure.
Yeah,
And this is a potential industry. We're talking, tens of billions of dollars.
yeah,
So there's tremendous upside potential. And yeah, these platforms are basically like the pickaxe
yes.
distributors and manufacturers, right? So
Yes.
it's definitely a sector to pay attention to. I mean, if you're a gamer, it's probably one of the more entertaining sectors
Sure.
to participate in and actually see, what does blockchain
Yeah.
do for these games? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and finding that gold, I feel like it's underplaying the complexity, right? Finding gold in this sector is creating a game with a sustainable economy,
Yeah.
which is extremely difficult to do
Yeah.
for
But-
tons of reasons.
But somebody will do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Just like,
Yeah.
because WoW happened,
Yeah,
that's how you know it's going to happen.
yeah,
If WoW was able to exist, and when I say WoW, World of Warcraft, that was basically the prototype to the metaverse. It was the killer, massive multiplayer online game of all time.
yeah,
Tens of millions of people. If that already happened in humans' history, then an actual, real, tangible, fungible economy
yeah,
behind these types of same virtual environments, it's inevitable one of them is going to kick off and kickstart a whole new transition phase for
Yeah.
For gaming, just human activity in general.
Yeah, 100%.
How people value their time. It's going to contribute to all of that. So
yeah.
you just gotta wait and see. Keep an eye on these platforms. See what games are coming out.
A lot of work needs to be done to,
I know
to figure it out.
You got to track their player activity, different metrics. It's not like DeFi where you could just who's got the most TVL.
TVL, yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot more deep dive research
Yeah.
needs to be done.
All right, so all the links will be in the description. Let us know if you have any questions or thoughts about the Web3 gaming space. Do you agree with us that the games in Web3 need to be fun and potentially the metaverse needs to just generate manufacturing lines of production?
Yeah.
If you disagree, let us know in the comment section below. Follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner, at Meadows.io, and at Rovi AI, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.